everybody, so this is going to be my review for the Urban Decay After Dark palette. And I just got my hands on this and I'm so excited to review it because these are really gorgeous colors. At least they look like in the palette. They're jewel toned and they have this really intense kind of shimmery effect to it. Not like glitter, but just like a jewel tone. You know what I'm talking about. So this is the palette itself. It has this beautiful duochromatic color on it, and then it shows you in the packaging what the colors are, and it comes with a brush, blah blah blah. I could read you what it says, but it just basically says this palette is awesome, is jewel toned, and use it. So that's basically it. So the palette is a plastic container, but doesn't feel cheap or anything, and it continues like that duochromatic color scheme. So it flashes purple and blue and green and yellow, and it's gorgeous. And inside the palette, we have all these amazing colors. It also includes a double-ended brush, which I have yet to use. And honestly, the first time I ever used this palette was today because I created this eye look with the first row of the palette, except for this color Sinful. I just used these 3 colors and then this brown one. But yeah, you can definitely see the pigmentation there, but I haven't touched the bottom row, so we're going to discover that together today. So here are the eyeshadows up close. I like that the color scheme was kind of picked in a way where the first row is a little bit more wearable colors, and the bottom row is jewel colors. So we got, you know, an emerald, we got a sapphire and a purple, amethyst kind of color, and these are just, you know, really beautiful. So I'm gonna go ahead and start swatching these for you because I'm sure that's what you're the most interested in. So the first color I'm taking is called Alter, and this is a shimmery gold color. Put this on the back of my hand. It has no eyeshadow primer whatsoever, it's just bare. And I think that is decently pigmented. I wouldn't say that this is like opaque, but I'd say it's about at least medium coverage, and you can build it up to be a little bit more pigmented. I found to be on the inner corner of my eye, which that's what I'm wearing on the inner corner, is this color. Next I'm taking this color called Scene. You can see that on my finger. And I'm just gonna swatch this as well. This is a duochromatic orange. So it's orange with gold reflex in it. It's like a reflective gold flash. It's just really, really beautiful. Reminds me of the sunset. So this is just a really stunning eyeshadow and unique. Next I'm taking Supersonic. This is a kind of like a burnt red, I would say. So I'm applying this as well. And you can see the pigmentation on that is just surreal. This is so bright and shocking and in your face. So I would say kind of a burnt metallic red that's just gorgeous. And I also use that on my eyes as well. I use this on the outer corner of the eye, and I blend it into Scene as well. The next color I'm taking is called Sinful, and this is a gold carrot kind of color. And applying that as well. And this is just a bright, vibrant gold, as you can tell. It definitely has that bright metallic-y sheen to it, like that jewel tone, and I think it's just super gorgeous. And I like that they added 2 options of a kind of more of a, I guess, a pale yellow gold and a bright yellow gold. So you can, you know, pick whichever one is your fancy for that day. And then lastly, for that first row, I'm taking Off Duty, you can see on my finger, and also applying that color. And oh my god, that is so pigmented. Very happy with that color. So this is kind of like a brown with a little bit of a red tone to it. Also very, very shimmery looking, but shimmery in a metallic way. It's kind of hard to describe because it's not like there's little glitter particles. It's not like that. It's just, it has that like metallic sheen to it. So overall, in terms of my first impressions for the first row, this is super pigmented, and I didn't use a primer or anything. This is just bare hand swatches, and I'm very, very, very impressed. I think they did a fantastic job with this first row. And I think for those of you that are maybe a little bit scared of color, this first row should kind of calm you down a little bit because I think it is pretty wearable. And I know this color looks a little bit scary, but as you can see, I used it today and it looks pretty good for a day look, I have to say. So let me go ahead and swatch the second row now. Now, I have to say that I'm a little bit disappointed in Urban Decay for naming this purple color called Druggy. I don't want to like make a big fuss about it because I know they didn't mean it in a mean way, but I work in the mental health field. I'm a therapist and I do work with people that do engage in drug abuse, and I just feel like they should have talked to someone before they named that shade that color, because it's not cool. So moving on. So taking this shade on my finger and looking at it on the finger, it looks pretty awesome so far, the color. And then on the back of my hand, I love it. It's so beautiful. It has a very purpley metallic-y sheen, as I've been saying for the other colors, but it has a blue duochrome to it. So I could really see this color being very intensified by being applied wet. So this next color is called Backfire, and this is also a purple, but it's kind of like a dirty purple, I guess I could say. And there we have it on the back of the hand. Now this color doesn't seem to have applied as bright as the other ones. It's a little bit sheer, so I'm gonna go ahead and apply another layer on top of that, see if we can make it a little bit more vibrant. And it definitely looks a little bit more opaque now that I've applied another layer. This one actually does happen to have a little bit of tiny micro glitters in it. Nothing too chunky where it would fall out on your eyes, but I can see that there's definitely a couple of little tiny glitters in that color. Next one is called Lounge. That's what it looks like on my finger. And wow, Lounge is definitely a standout color for me because it has a brown base and then it has a green kind of flashback, so a green little duochrome to it. So that's a pretty unique color. I'm gonna do another layer over it because I think that would make the color a little bit more intensified. So let's give that a shot. So now that I'm applying another layer, it definitely looks a little bit more pigmented, and I'm really excited to use that on the lid because that color is just beautiful. Next color is called Fringe. This is an emerald kind of color. That's what it looks like on my pinky. Actually, instead of it being emerald, I think it looks more sapphire now that I think about it, but wow, look at that pigmentation. That's beautiful. Love it. It's definitely very metallic-y, very shiny. I don't know if that's the correct word, but it just looks like shiny. It looks like wet almost. Lastly, I'm going to take Paralyzed on my finger. And I'm going to apply that as well. Okay, so this color, although it's beautiful, I think it could be a little bit more pigmented, so I'm going to apply another layer over it because it definitely looks way more pigmented on my finger. Okay, now it looks definitely better. I think this color would look really beautiful on top of a black base, and it does look pretty good on my hand. Beautiful color. So my overall thoughts on the colors swatched on bare skin, I think they're beautiful. I think the standouts in this palette are Scene, this beautiful orange with a yellow duochrome, and this color which is called Lounge, which is the brown with a green duochrome. I guess you can tell I really like duochromes. I just like colors that are unique and I won't be able to replicate in other palettes, which kind of makes it a bummer when you buy a palette and it just looks like every other palette you have. So I don't really feel like you're gonna have a problem with that with this palette. I think it's pretty unique. I think that it has enough variety in terms of like shades that aren't so crazy, and it also has these beautiful, you know, jewel tone colors. As usual, purples I think usually give the most trouble, and I think this purple is a little light. Like it's not like opaque in its swatch, but I would say that one and this bottom blue one are the only ones I feel are not like that pigmented as they should be. Also this color too, which I also is my second favorite. I think you probably need to pat on a little bit, and also probably taking it on a finger would help to make it a little bit more opaque. But none of these colors are patchy feeling or patchy looking or powdery or dry. They feel very smooth on my skin. They almost apply kind of like a cream consistency, so I really like that about these shadows. I'm gonna do a couple of these shadows wet to show you what they look like. So as you can see, hopefully not just barely, you can see that the bottom part one, which I applied wet, looks more pigmented and a little bit more bright than the dry swatch. So I'm gonna give this color a try to see if maybe it'll be a little bit more opaque. So I applied Backfire, which I swatched here dry, on a brush wet, and I definitely feel like the pigmentation is better when it's wet because I didn't have to do this twice. I just did one swipe around with my brush and it was opaque. So I definitely think these shades apply a lot better wet. I'll do one more wet just to show you. I'm not sure how much you can tell, but I applied Alter wet on the side of my hand where I'm pointing down here, and then I applied it dry here. So I think it definitely looks a little bit more opaque. Wet, it looks a little bit more shimmery and metallic-y. But overall, like the rest of the colors, you don't really have to apply them wet because they're pretty pigmented on their own dry, so I can only imagine what they look like on an eyeshadow primer, but I have to say I'm pretty impressed with these shades. So the first step, as always, is going to be applying a primer, and I'm using the Urban Decay Primer Potion. I suggest using a small synthetic brush for this palette because the texture of the shadows would most likely be aided by having a synthetic type brush. I have this little Tarte brush. It came free with one of the palettes I bought, and you can use any synthetic brush. It really doesn't matter which one. I also recommend applying these shadows wet because it intensifies the pigment. I took a little bit of Max Fix Plus spray and I sprayed it on my brush. The first shadow I'm using is called Scene, and I'm going to pack that on my brush. So taking the brush, I'm going to gently pat that over the lid, and I'm going to go ahead and pat that pretty much all over. You can also use a finger to pat on the pigment, but this is good enough for me at this point. Next, I'm taking an Inglot blending brush. This is the 6SS, and I'm going into this brown color called Off Duty. It's sparkly and shimmery. Then I'm going to apply that to the crease of my eye and just slowly patting in and then going back and forth with the brush. I want to diffuse out this color, so I'm taking a Real Techniques number 200 brush, and I'm going to blend out that brown just to give a bit more of a diffused look so it blends out into the brow bone. If you want a bit more pigment, you can just go back into that first blending brush I used and apply a little bit more of that color. Next, with the wet Tarte brush, I'm going into Supersonic and packing that on. Then I'm taking this color into the outer third of the eye. First, I'm just going to press, mainly focusing on the outer part of the eye. Then in the middle, I'm just going to go back and forth with my brush to blend with the orangey gold shadow. Next, with a smudger brush, I'm taking the Off-Duty Brown color and I'm applying that on the lower lash line. I'm taking that color to about halfway on the lower lash line, and then I'm going to stop there. Then I'm taking Supersonic again, and I'm applying that to the middle part of the eye and then towards the inner corner. You want to blend in the middle between the brown and the burnt red just to create a blending effect. Then with the color Alter and the same brush, this is a shimmery golden color, I'm applying that in the inner corner and the inner tear duct of the eye, bringing it up towards the lid and dragging towards the lower lash line. Now I'm going to add my liquid liner. I'm using the Kat Von D tattoo liner in Trooper, and I'm going to apply a wing to the top line. You could definitely just use like a brown pencil and kind of smudge it a little bit. I think that would be gorgeous. Or you could just add mascara, because I don't think this look necessarily needs eyeliner, but I'm going to go ahead and add this now. Next, I'm going to apply my mascara, and I'm using MAC's Haute and Naughty Waterproof Lash, and I'm going to apply it both to the top and the bottom lashes. So this is the finished eye look. I think it's really gorgeous, and I love that the colors kind of look like a sunset. So I honestly think this is pretty wearable for during the day. You can make this look a little bit darker if you want by taking a darker brown eyeshadow that's not in this palette that you might have and add it more to the crease, or maybe take one of the brighter colors like the blue and apply that under the eye for a little bit of an extra effect. But I really love how this turned out. I think the shadows worked beautifully, and the center of the eye with the orangey colors just gives a really nice sheen, and I think it would really make almost any eye colors really pop, especially brown eyes like mine. So my last few thoughts about this palette is I'm glad I bought it. I probably mainly got it because I wanted to review it for you guys, because I saw it on the Sephora website and I thought it looked intriguing, so I wanted to kind of just give it a review and let you guys know if it's worth purchasing. And I have to say I don't regret purchasing this. I think it's definitely a versatile palette. It has these really gorgeous shades. I could see people really doing an easy sunset look, a rainbow look, anything that you like. You can use this palette, and if you don't really like a lot of color, you can just put the, maybe the lower colors just under the lash line, just add a pop of color. Or if you're really bold, you can, go all out. So yeah, I think it's very expensive. Most Urban Decay palettes are pretty expensive, and a lot of the time they do go on sale after a while. Like, I don't know if you remember the Spectrum palette they came out with. It was full of colors. I didn't get it, but I know they had it like half off at some point. So maybe if you want to wait, you can just wait for this to go on sale. I don't know if it's worth getting this palette if you have that palette already, because I think it does have some similar colors, although I think a lot of the colors were matte, and I didn't really read a lot of good reviews about that palette. I think that on Temptalia, who is my favorite blogger, she does really excellent reviews. I think she gave this palette like a B+, which is pretty good. She's a pretty harsh reviewer in terms of like quality, like harsh but true. I would give this probably, I'd be a little bit nicer and give this more of like an A-. I guess the only downside of the palette is this color is a little light, like it's not fully opaque, and it does have a couple of glitter particles. The other ones strangely don't have any glitter particles except for that one. And Paralyzed, I feel like could pack a little bit more punch. And also, I don't know why they named this color Druggy. I thought they kind of dropped the ball on that, but anyways, so downsides would be the price. Those two colors were a little bit less opaque in their pigmentation, but I like it. I like this palette. I like that it included a brush, and I think they look gorgeous without even a primer. So there you go. I hope you like this review, and let me know in the comment section below if you're gonna buy this palette, you're gonna pass, or you're gonna get something else maybe similar. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.